Munich in early spring was a painting of quiet elegance. Blossoms opened gently along the Isar River, and the air carried the faint scent of hope. Helena Wagner stood by the window of her modest flat in Schwabing, hands wrapped around a warm mug of chamomile tea. Outside, the world felt calm. Inside, her mind spun. Her daughter, Annalena, had just left after a tense conversation. "I want the reception at Bayerischer Hof," Annalena had said, eyes gleaming. A proper banquet, with string quartets, crystal chandeliers, and a horse-drawn carriage for the entrance. Helena tried to smile. "That sounds ambitious." "It's not ambitious, Mama. It's what I've always dreamed of. Julian's parents are covering part of it, but we'll need around 80,000 euros more." Helena's heart sank. "Annalena, that's more than I earn in a year." Annalena blinked, as if that fact had never occurred to her. "I thought you'd saved something. You've always been so careful with money." Helena nodded slowly. "Yes, for my retirement. For emergencies. You know I'll help where I can, but I can't give away everything I have." Annalena stood in silence for a long moment. Her lips curled slightly. "I see." And just like that, she gathered her coat, said a quick goodbye, and walked out the door. Helena didn't know it then, but that moment would mark the beginning of something dark. Something she couldn't have imagined even in her worst dreams. The next few days passed without a single message from Annalena. No calls. No texts. Only silence. Helena busied herself with work, managing accounts at a small architecture firm in the city center. She'd always prided herself on being calm, rational, composed. But the emptiness left behind by her daughter's coldness began to gnaw at her. Was she truly being unreasonable? She replayed the conversation over and over, wondering if she had failed somehow. On the fourth evening, just after dusk, her phone buzzed. A message from Annalena. "Dinner this Saturday at Gaststadt Fraunhofer. 7 p.m., just us. I want to talk." Helena stared at the message. Her chest tightened slightly. The Fraunhofer was a well-known spot, intimate, with candlelit tables and classical music in the background. A favorite among those seeking a quiet, refined setting. A flicker of hope touched her heart. Perhaps Annalena had thought things through. Perhaps she wanted to mend the bond. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way back. Helena responded simply, "I'll be there." Saturday arrived like a whisper. Helena dressed carefully. A soft blue blouse. A pair of silver earrings Annalena had given her years ago. She arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early. The waiter led her to a long table, already set for several guests. "Is this right?" she asked. The waiter checked the name again. "Yes. Reserved by Fräulein Wagner." Strange, she thought. She expected a table for two. She sat down and waited. Minutes passed. Then came Annalena. She was radiant, hair in soft curls, wearing a fitted black dress and heels that echoed with each step. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, 5 more people followed. Friends, cousins, even Julian's mother. They all took seats without greeting Helena directly. Annalena smiled sweetly and raised a glass of sparkling wine. "To new beginnings," she said. Helena's brow furrowed. Something felt wrong. Off. Cold. She lifted her glass slowly. Around her, conversations buzzed. Laughter, glances, whispers. But no one looked at her. Not directly. And in her gut, Helena felt it. This wasn't a dinner. It was something else entirely. Something had been set in motion. Something calculated. And she was right in the middle of it. Helena sat quietly, her wine untouched. Around her, Annalena's friends raised glasses, chattering like this was some sort of celebration. She smiled politely at those who acknowledged her, but there was no warmth behind their eyes. It felt staged. Polished. And then Annalena stood. With that same graceful poise Helena had watched since her ballet days, Annalena cleared her throat and tapped a spoon gently against her glass. "Before we eat, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, voice poised, eyes scanning the table. "Especially my dear mother. Without her, none of this would be possible." Polite laughter. Helena looked up. Growing up, my mom was careful with money, Annalena continued. Strict. Always reminding me that we must earn everything. That dreams come second to discipline. So I worked hard. I played by her rules. And now, when it came to the biggest day of my life, my wedding, I asked her for help. She paused. Helena's heart dropped. I didn't ask for a castle, just a venue. Music. The usual things a bride might want. But Mum said no. She said it was too much. That my expectations were unrealistic. Laughter again, sharper this time. Someone muttered, maybe she's saving it for herself. Helena flinched. Her cheeks burned. Annalena's voice hardened slightly. It made me realize something. Sometimes, people who raise us with love also teach us how to lower our expectations. They teach us how to shrink. The table went quiet. She smiled. But not anymore. This dinner is a thank you for showing me what not to become. A few people clapped. Helena's mouth felt dry. She stood slowly. Annalena, may I speak with you privately? But her daughter was already turning away, sipping her wine. Helena walked out. And into the cold Munich night. Days passed. No message. No call. Not even an apology. Helena returned to work, though her thoughts rarely left the restaurant. She replayed the words over and over, as if dissecting them might lessen the sting. Every sentence Annalena spoke had been rehearsed. Calculated. Not just to shame, but to wound. She found herself rereading old text messages. Birthday notes. Photos of them laughing in Marienplatz, sipping coffee by the Victualienmarkt. Memories now tasted bitter. She kept asking the same question. Why? Not just why Annalena had turned so cold, but why it felt like a performance. Something public. Something planned. She noticed an Instagram post 2 days later. A photo from the dinner. Annalena, radiant in black, captioned, "When you learn to stand alone, you finally rise." The comments were filled with hearts and admiration. Yes, queen. Cut toxic energy. Proud of you for speaking your truth. Helena stared at the screen, numb. Was she the villain now? To strangers online, she already was. That weekend, Helena met her friend Clara at a quiet cafe in Heidhausen. You look exhausted, Clara said gently. Helena sighed. Annalena humiliated me. Publicly. Told people I denied her dreams. Made me feel like I'd failed as a mother. Clara raised an eyebrow. You think she did that spontaneously? Helena blinked. What do you mean? Clara leaned in. I know Julian's aunt. She mentioned that dinner was planned for over a month. Printed invitations. A guest list. Helena's heart froze. What? She said they called it a closure gathering. Said Annalena was finally freeing herself from maternal guilt. I didn't believe it. But now, Helena sat in silence, her tea untouched. So, it wasn't just a speech. It was a stage. And she had been cast as the antagonist. Helena had never been the angry type. She buried things, reasoned, let time smooth the edges. But now, she felt fire. She thought about all the things she had sacrificed. The ballet lessons, the school trips, the extra shifts she took so Annalena could study abroad, the years without holidays, the nights spent alone, budgeting and rebudgeting. And now she was discarded, a prop in a grown woman's performance. She opened her drawer and pulled out a photo album. Their first trip to Salzburg. Annalena's smile, missing front teeth. Her arms wrapped around Helena's neck. Tears came without warning. Not because of the pain, but because she realized something inside her had begun to change. And she wouldn't stay silent any longer. Julian, Annalena's fiancé. She remembered how he used to call her Frau Wagner. How polite he had been at family dinners. She wondered what he knew, or what he'd been told. She didn't call ahead. She arrived at their flat in Maxvorstadt mid-afternoon. Julian answered the door, surprised. Frau Wagner. Hi. Is everything all right? I'd like a word. If you have a moment. They sat in the lounge. Helena noted the new furniture. The glossy magazines on the marble table. I'll be direct, she said. Did you know about that dinner? He hesitated. I knew she was planning something. I didn't realize it would be that. She called it a closure gathering. Julian, do you think I'm toxic? He looked down. I think Annalina's felt pressured. For a long time. She wants to feel in control. Independent. Is that what she told you? He didn't reply. She stood. I don't blame you, Julian. But you're marrying someone who scripts her life like a performance. Be careful what role she assigns you next. And she left. Helena wrote a letter. A long one. Not out of anger, but for truth. She began from the beginning. The struggles. The sacrifices. The love. She explained her decision about the wedding, not to shame, but to remind. She placed it in an envelope, wrote Annalina's name in her best handwriting, and mailed it. Then she waited, not for a reply, but to see what silence would mean this time. 2 weeks passed. Then a message. Not from Annalina. From Julian. She read your letter. She cried. But she won't say it. She's not ready. Helena stared at the message, hands trembling slightly. She says you always win, that you always get to be right. Helena replied simply. It was never about winning. I just wanted her to know the truth. Julian responded. She's thinking of canceling the wedding. One morning, Helena stood before her mirror. She looked older, more tired, but stronger. She wasn't sure what the future held with Annalina. But for once, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She was walking on her own. And it felt honest. A month later, she received an email. From Annalina. It wasn't an apology. But it was raw. I wanted you to hurt the way I hurt when you said no, it said. I thought if I made you small, I'd feel big. But it didn't work. Helena read it 3 times. She replied with only one sentence. When you're ready to talk, I'll still be your mother. She closed the laptop. Outside, spring had returned to Munich. And with it, the slow thawing of something once frozen.